So what are some of these metrics? What are some of these metrics you can put in place to say, wow, where is my organization right now? Where can imaging and workflow take me? And what are some of the outcomes? What is the value that I can achieve by doing something like this? First thing, perform that needs assessment. Sit down and say, where are we right now? Take a look at your current workflow. And workflow isn't just a technology tool. Workflow is a common daily term. Let me understand how the work flows through the organization. And let me ask everyone involved, everyone that might be making purchase requisitions, because again, the scope of today's conversation is accounts payable. So anybody that makes purchase requisitions, to the people that execute the purchase orders, maybe to your vendors and talk about them, about what happens in the process on their side, what happens when you receive those goods, when you receive the invoice, and finally execute the payment and understand the levels of approval that it takes. And after you think you've gotten everybody involved, ask other people that aren't involved, that one may soon become involved, or people that really you don't think that ever would have any place in this, but they just might, and you're never going to know unless you ask the right questions. And then finally, get your customer input. Because you know what? Your customers have to do the exact same thing with you. You're the vendors to your customers. Ask them how they process. Ask them what values, what would be valuable to them within their processing, and see how you might be able to adopt that into your needs assessment. Also, what are your competitors doing? You know, IDT certainly has many competitors out there. Highland Software has many competitors out there. AnyDoc and Kodak. You can think of some of the common competitors with a company like the size of Kodak. The volumes are going to be very different for each of these organizations. The processes might be very different, but your competition is probably going to do things along the same lines. And if we take a step back and really try and figure out they're successful, why? Is it because of the product that they offer? Yeah, that's probably part of it. But are they also successful because of their cost control structure? And it's not just the money that they're bringing in, but it's also the money that they're spending to control their costs. Take a look at their processes maybe. Now let's take a look at a very paper-intensive process and highlight along the way, you know, some of the maybe obvious, maybe not so obvious inefficiencies with this paper-driven process. So I've got a mailroom worker here, and this person receives an invoice. They open up that mail, they recognize that it's an invoice, and they're going to say, all right, I need to go ahead and send this to accounts payable. I'll route it through interoffice mail, send it to those clerical workers that work inside an ERP system all day long. This could be SAP, this could be Oracle, this could be Lawson, PeopleSoft. It could be some homegrown application that your organization has built. Either way, these people are paid to work inside this application all day long and process all these invoices that are coming into the organization. But once they get this invoice, what do? Well, they say, well, is this a PO-based invoice? Is there a related purchase order against this? If not, I need to go ahead and make sure I get approval to pay this, because I don't know that this is, you know, that this $10 or $10 million invoice should be paid if there's not a purchase order against it. So let me go ahead and make a copy and send it over to the requester. I have the original here for myself, so I know to follow up on it later, right? But I'm going to send the copy over to that requester that may or may not know what to do with this invoice. So does the requester get the invoice? We don't know. What do they do with this invoice after they get it? We don't know. We lost all visibility into that invoice, and now we have duplicate copies. Now, if this is PO-based, I need to verify a handful of information before I can proceed. One, do I have the related documents? Organizations traditionally have something like a three-way match, where I need to match the invoice to the related purchase order to maybe to the related goods receipt or packing slip. Now, once I verify that I have those documents, now I need to verify what I would consider header amounts, header level information. Does the purchase order numbers match? Do the amounts match? Do the terms match? Anything like that. But then I need to get down into the line item detail and make sure that I received the amount of goods that I ordered and that I'm being invoiced for the amount that I'm ordered. Not any overage, not anything short of what I ordered. And then finally, after I've verified that information, what do I need to do? Well, I might have an internal control that says I still need, even though it's purchase order based, an extra level of approval over $50,000. So let me go ahead and forward it over to my manager to make that final approval, and then, and only then, am I able to finally enter this transaction into my enterprise resource planning software. So what are some of the obvious and probably already stated pains or problems with this particular method? Well, it's obviously a very inefficient use of resources. I have these people, they are trained to work inside and maybe paid a premium amount to work inside that ERP package on a day-to-day basis. I have a lack of process control. I'm making duplicate copies. I don't know what's going to happen to that invoice after I forward it along. And that $50,000 threshold, I might catch that, I might not catch that. I don't necessarily have a way of knowing. And obviously, very protracted cycle times. From the moment that I received that invoice, it could be days, weeks, months, if this is a especially difficult invoice to resolve, before I actually issue payment for that. And also have no visibility into the process. Probably very evident. This paper shuffling going back and forth, I have no ability to control who owns that document at any given point in time, when that document entered the organization, and when I finally got it paid. So if we take a look at this overall workflow, how can we streamline this with imaging and workflow, the focus of today's topic? Well, I'm going to start right at the top, send to accounts payable, eliminate that, and shift everything. I take those ERP clerical workers, I move them much closer to the ERP system at the bottom of the screen. I start at the very top again, though, with that mailroom worker. I have an invoice. I'm going to go ahead and not send it over through interoffice mail. I'm now going to say, let me scan this. Let me run it through some of that software like AnyDoc and say, is this PO-based or is this not PO-based? And once I determine that this is not PO-based, I can handle this completely differently. Here was the old process. Make a copy and send it to the requester. We're going to eliminate that, and as soon as we determine that it's not PO-based, we're going to say who is the requester, and software such as OnBase is going to go ahead and forward this through an email over to that requester. We're going to make it very simple for that requester. We're going to give them maybe a URL to say, click on this hyperlink, navigate out to the web. They're going to be able to view an image of this invoice, not the piece of paper that's associated with it. And they're really going to be given maybe 2 or 3 different options: approve, deny, or maybe something like contest. You know, yeah, we should pay the invoice, but maybe not for this amount, or something like that. Once they go ahead and, for our sake, approve it, I'm going to electronically route it over to the ERP clerical workers, and that AP department is going to now code in that transaction into the ERP system. They have electronic proof that the invoice has been approved. They have a full audit trail of when it entered the cycle, when it left, and they have all the related information immediately there. Now, if this is PO-based, I can actually take this a step further and further automate the process because I have other supporting data to rely on.